Hi, 5th grade math students. This is Chapter 7.3, Real-World Problems with Ratios. We're going to use several techniques to solve real-world problems that use ratios in Chapter 7.3. In our first example, we're going to find simplest form ratios to compare quantities. An aquarium has 6 angelfish and 18 tetras. Find the ratio of the number of angelfish to the number of tetras in the aquarium. So the ratio of the number of angelfish to the number of tetras would be written like this. Angelfish to tetras would be 6 to 18. However, when we look at the ratio 6 to 18, we can immediately see that that's not in simplest form. So we want to reduce this or divide to find the simplest form. So the greatest common factor for these two would be 6. So let's go ahead and do that process. Divide by 6, giving us a new ratio of 1 to 3. So the ratio of the number of angelfish to the number of tetras in the aquarium is 1 to 3. That is our answer in simplest form. Here's a practice problem for you to try. There are 12 pink roses and 15 yellow roses in Beth's garden. Problem 1 asks you to write, what is the ratio of pink to yellow roses in simplest form? Number 2 asks you to reverse that and write the ratio of yellow to pink roses in simplest form. Press pause while you work, and if you have any questions about how to find simplest form, go back to the sample problem on the previous screen. Okay, good luck! And when you're finished, we'll figure out how to use whole to find a missing part in a ratio. Now we're going to use the whole to find the missing part in a ratio. There are 48 children in a soccer program, and 16 of them are girls. Find the ratio of the number of girls to the number of boys in the program. Okay, so we know the total number of children, 48, and we know that there are 16 girls. So with those two pieces of information, we can solve for the number of boys. So the number of boys will equal 48 minus 16, which equals 32. So the ratio of girls to boys is 16 to 32. However, that's not in simplest form, so we need to answer this in simplest form, or solve for simplest form. 16 goes into 32 twice. So we're going to divide each side by 16, giving us a new ratio of 1 to 2. So for every 1 girl in the program, there are 2 boys. Okay, let's go on to a practice problem for you to complete. Here's a practice problem for you to try on your own. On a rainy day, the all-weather goods store sold 56 umbrellas and raincoats all together. The number of raincoats sold equaled 24. So in question 3, you're asked, what is the ratio of the total number of umbrellas and raincoats to the number of raincoats sold? So you have all the information you need to solve this problem. You know the total number sold, and you know the number of raincoats. Okay? Don't forget to write your answer in simplest form. Then in number 4, you're asked to find the ratio of the number of umbrellas sold to the number of raincoats sold. You'll solve for the number of umbrellas sold just as you solved for the number of boys in the soccer program in our sample problem in the previous screen. Once again, don't forget, write your answer in simplest form. Press pause while you work, and we'll be back with another type of problem when you're finished. All right, now we're moving on to pro-level ratio word problems. We're going to find the new ratio after one of the terms changes. Ernesto has 25 football cards and 40 baseball cards. He gives away 5 of his baseball cards. What is the ratio of the number of football cards to the number of baseball cards that Ernesto has now? Okay, so we start with 25 football cards and 40 baseball cards. Ernesto is going to give away 5 of those baseball cards, giving us a new number, 35. So now we need to write a ratio of the number of football cards to the number of baseball cards that Ernesto has now. So let's see, he has football to baseball will be 25 to 35. That's not in simplest form, however. We can divide each of these by 5, giving us a new ratio of 5 to 7. So the ratio of the number of football cards to the number of baseball cards that Ernesto has now is 5 to 7. Okay? And he started with a ratio of 25 to 40, which once again divided by 5 would be 5 to 8. So his beginning ratio was 5 to 8, but his ending ratio is 5 to 7. Okay, let's have you try one of these on your own. Here are practice problems 5 and 6 for you. Gerald donated 30 quarters and 16 dimes to a charity collection. He then donated another 18 quarters. So question 5 asks, what is the ratio of the total number of quarters donated to the number of dimes donated? And question 6 asks, what is the ratio of the total number of quarters donated to the total number of coins donated? Okay. Give this one a try. Press pause while you work, and when you come back, we'll learn to use models to find a ratio. Now let's learn to use models to find ratios. Amy has 96 comic and storybooks all together. She has 60 comic books. Find the ratio of the number of comic books to the number of storybooks. So we'll begin by drawing a bar model that shows that Amy has 60 comic books. And she has some unknown number of storybooks. Let's put a question mark here. We know that the total number equals 96. So to solve for storybooks, we simply need to take 96 minus 60, which equals 36. So Amy has 36 storybooks. So the ratio of the number of comic books to the number of storybooks would be 60 to 36. Now we can see that this is not in simplest form. So we can divide both 60 and 36 by, well, let's start with 6. To give us a new ratio of 10 to 6. Ooh, but I think we can reduce that still, don't you see? We can take 10 and 6, and those can each be divided by 2. To give us a new ratio of 5 to 3. So the ratio of the number of comic books to the number of storybooks is 5 to 3. I'll draw a box around that to make sure we can see it's our answer. Okay? Here's a practice problem for you to try. Stanley collects stamps as a hobby. In his collection, he has 56 foreign stamps and 196 U.S. stamps. What is the ratio of the number of U.S. stamps to the total number of stamps that Stanley has? Okay, so you're going to write a ratio for 196 stamps compared to the total number of stamps you'll have to add to solve for that. Press pause while you work, and when you come back, we're going to learn how to find another term given the ratio and a single term. And here we are at our final idea for Chapter 7.3. We're going to learn to find the other term given the ratio and one term. Harold divides a carton of tomatoes into 2 portions. The ratio of the mass of the bigger portion to the smaller portion is 5 to 2. The mass of the bigger portion is 15 pounds. What is the mass of the smaller portion? Okay, there are 2 different methods we can use to solve. The first involves drawing a bar graph. Our bar graph would look like this. Our bigger portion has 5 units, and our smaller portion has 2 units. Okay, we know that these 5 units in the bigger portion are equal to 15 pounds. So each individual portion is worth 3 pounds. right? Because 3 times 5 equals 15 pounds. So if each one of these units is worth 3 pounds, then each of these must be as well, and therefore the mass of the smaller portion is 6 pounds. Okay, that's method 1. Now let me show you method 2. In method 2, we're simply going to write equivalent ratios, which would be 5 to 2 and 15 to, we don't know, but that's what we're solving for. So what is our multiplying factor for 5 to 15? That's right, it's times 3. Okay, so we would take 2 times 3 to find our answer, which is 6. Okay, so either way, we get to the mass of the smaller portion being 6. Okay, here's our final practice problem for chapter 7.3. Mrs. Gardner has the milk she is going to use to make a smoothie and a shortcake in 2 portions. The ratio of the volume of portion 1, we'll label it P1, to the volume of portion 2, P2, is 3 to 4. The volume of portion 1 is 120 milliliters. What is the total volume of both portions? If you'd like to use method 1 to solve, here's a picture to help you. There are 3 equal units of portion 1 and 4 equal units of portion 2. We know that portion 1 is equal to 120 milliliters, so we can divide that by 3 and find the value of each individual section of portion 1. We'll then know the value of each of the 4 parts of portion 2. And from there, you can solve for the total, because the total will equal 7 units. Okay? Now, if you'd like to use method 2, you'll set up an equivalent ratio like this. You'll find the multiplying factor to go from 3 to 120. Then you'll multiply 4 by that same factor. And to find the total volume, you'll add the 2 parts of the ratio, the 2 terms, 120 and whatever your answer here is, to give you the total volume. Use whichever method you prefer. This finishes up chapter 7.3. Thanks for your hard work learning all of these brand new ways to solve ratio word problems. And when I see you tomorrow, we'll practice more together. See you then.